So now you're just going to sew the fin pieces together. You're just going to sew along these sides and not the straight side because that's where you're going to stuff it. Just have two pieces like this and just flip them right side out and just flatten the seam like that. And there's usually this little lip of fabric here. I just snip that off. Now you're going to sew the body piece. Just make sure that you don't sew too far down. Just make sure that the stitches stop right where the curve begins. So that's usually where I start because it's easier to decide right where you want to start. Okay, so now you should have a piece something like this, and when you open it up, there should be a small little bump in it, like not too much, just a slight curve in the top. I'm going to lay it down so you guys can see what it looks like. It should do that. Don't be worried if it's doing that, like you didn't do it right or anything. It's supposed to do that. Okay, so once your body part is sewn on that one seam, you're just going to open it up and lay it good side facing up, and then get your tail piece. It's going to be a little bit bigger than the actual body tail is, so don't be worried about that. I made the pattern that way just so you have a little bit more seam allowance, and then you're just going to pin on each side just to keep it in place. And you're going to bring it over to the sewing machine, and you're just going to sew these sides so you can sew the curves here, just these two, but don't sew along here because you're going to need to sew it, flip it inside out. So just go ahead and sew that up. Make sure you go nice and slow so you can turn it easier. So once you've sewn this on, this is what it should look like. And then you can just flip this inside out, or right side out. And just poke, make sure all the seams are laying flat and such. So now you're going to start piecing everything together, so you're going to get a little bit of stuffing. I only use about this much for the fins because I don't like them too stuffed. And just push them in. You're going to do that for both of them. Just make sure it's the same amount of stuffing in each fin. Make sure they feel and look the same. So what you're going to do is place your Mamegoma body right side up, and that means the stitching should be facing down. Then you're going to get your belly piece and flip it in half and find the center and line that up with the center of the base piece and just pin it there, and then do 2 or 3 pins on each side of that pin. You just want to make sure that your pins are evenly spaced so that they end up even on both sides like this, where they hit at the same point. Then you're going to get your fin pieces, and this part's kind of hard to explain, but hopefully you guys can see. I just push all the stuffing to the back and squish this like that, and put the skinnier end at the top where the pin is, and then lay this piece down so you should get like a sandwich of 4 fabrics. You can go ahead and pin that down. It's like that. Just make sure that they're all lined up, and then you're going to do the same for the other side. So then you're just going to finish pinning all the way around. And there's going to be a little bit of fabric left over, but that's fine, don't worry about it. We're going to trim that up once we turn it all inside out. So now that everything's all pinned, like so, you can bring this over to your sewing machine and just go ahead and sew all the way around the pins area, but don't sew this area closed. And this is what it should look like at this point. Now you can flip it inside out. You should see that you have a Mamegoma shape. So this is what you should have right now, just an open Mamegoma, and you're going to start stuffing it. You're going to start with small handfuls just to make sure that you get every point, and that you don't want to just stuff it and have some empty places up here. And you're also going to stuff its tail. So now I'm going to just trim this up a little bit, just make sure that you line it up on the sides here, and any extra you can just cut it off. I only need to cut off about 1 centimeter. So now you're going to thread your needle with some thread to match your fleece and do the hidden stitch all along the seam, and don't forget to stuff it as you go, just to make sure that you get a nice stuffed. You don't want it to be too floppy underneath the stitch. So I just finished doing the hidden stitch all along the bottom here, as you can see, and now we're going to start gluing on the face. So now you're going to go ahead and get your muzzle piece and your fabric glue and just some onto the back. Then you're going to do the same for the eyes. And then you're done. You have an adorable Mamegoma, and I recommend letting your fabric glue dry for at least 24 hours before really messing with it too much. If you use hot glue, you can mess with it like a minute afterwards. And if you used a different color fleece, you can add cheeks to it, but I saw no point considering I used, you know, the pink fleece. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. It was pretty hard to explain everything, so I hope you understood it well enough. And yeah, like I said before, be sure to leave me a video response if you make one of these. Have a great day, guys. Bye. Aww, they're little Mamegoma friends. I came to dance.